Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Door to Deceit. I'm your host Ash, and I'm happy you're here. Thank y'all as usual for supporting the podcast, and I really hope you enjoy the episode. I am actually done being trifling and lazy, so don't worry, this one is definitely going to be longer than the last few. Our story begins in the Metro Detroit area with Zion Foster, a kind, sweet, creative 17-year-old girl. Zion was close to her family, and according to her dad, she had a heart of magic because of her capacity for compassion. As the oldest and the oldest daughter at that, she looked after her 5 siblings, started working at her first job, and was working to save for a car. Zion had a lot on her plate, but she took it in stride, finding time for all her responsibilities and an active social life. Unfortunately, part of her circle is actually at the root of the investigation into Zion's disappearance. On January 4th, 2022, Zion finished her shift at work and asked her mom if she could go and visit her favorite cousin, by marriage, Jalen. Now, Jalen was 21, and it seemed like he was kind of that cousin that, like, you know, you be at the family function and they're like, oh, we're gonna go for a walk, but really y'all are going to go smoke some weed, you know, typical cousin type shit. It seemed like that's the type of vibe that they had. So Zion's mom did allow her to go. Now, she assumed that it would be like any other hangout and that Jalen would bring Zion home afterwards. But sadly, this would be the last time that she ever saw her daughter again. The nightmare for Zion's mom, Sierra, began unfolding after a few hours. At 12:59 a.m., Zion texted her mom and said that she was on her way home. But hours passed and there was still no sign of her. Her mom called her several times and got no answer. And then to top it off, her location was turned off on her phone. Sierra also called Jalen, who didn't answer, until the next day. Now, once he did finally answer the phone, he claimed he hadn't seen Zion for months or even years. Now, this lie made 0 sense for him to even tell because he literally picked her up the previous night. There is footage of him doing it. Cell phone data also ends up showing that around 10 p.m. on the 4th, his phone was at home and so was Zion's. Zion's was at her home. Around 10:40, he ended up picking her up. That was also told in the locations. A little after 11, both Zion and Jalen's phones were pinged at his home. And by 11:24, Zion's location was shared to her mother from Jalen's home. So, girl, there's all this proof that the two of you were together. You left a huge digital footprint. I don't understand what we're doing here. Like, why are you lying? Whatever. I guess he thought he had, a foolproof little plan because he actually invited Sierra over to look at his ring cam footage to prove that Zion had not come by. The issue here is that a space of time was missing from the footage and you can see it on the screen. Now, if you have a ring camera, then you know it stores every single video from any movement that it sees. So for a block of time to be gone, it's pretty clear that something was erased. And then to top it off, the time missing was literally the time when Zion would have been there at Jalen's home. So, I mean, it's pretty clear he got something to hide. Now, Sierra was definitely suspicious, but she had nothing concrete to go off of. Because of this and Zion running away twice before for weeks, police were not inspired at all to take the case. So she was the main one leading searches for her daughter. A private investigator from Chicago, actually, and a local news outlet saw her struggles and they decided to help out with the investigation and of spreading awareness of Zion's disappearance. During one of the many rallies that Sierra held for Zion walking through Jalen's neighborhood, Jalen's neighbor actually came from across the street. It's literally the across the street neighbor. She stopped Sierra and offered her footage from her ring camera from the day that Zion disappeared. And I think I say it almost every time there's like, a neighbor or a coworker or whatever. Shout out to those people because earth fucking angels. So with this, the police were actually encouraged to actually do the job, that they're getting paid for. And on January 10th, they finally began their investigation. A missing persons report was filed for Zion under the impression that she was being held somewhere against her will. Now, Jalen was questioned earlier in the investigation, or I guess the preliminary, little shit. This was on the 6th. During this time, he told the police that he had not not seen Zion since May of 2021. He claimed that she would use his name with her mom as an excuse to leave home without question. Now, on the same day that the missing persons report was filed, a private investigator that I mentioned before sent police photos showing that Jalen's Acura was in the area surrounding Zion's home. Police also informed Jalen that Zion's phone last pinged at his home, and yet he kept lying. They asked him to take a lie detector test and he agreed, but then he didn't show up for the test. Like, the red flags are red flagging. Sierra and Zion's neighbor from across the street also shared ring camera footage that showed Jalen's Acura pulled up to get Zion on the 4th. The thing is though, he didn't pull up into her driveway. He parked in the next door neighbor's driveway instead. Now, in my opinion, this proves premeditation. I don't know if it proves it for the murder or if it proves it for whatever he did that caused the murder to end up, having to happen or whatever. But this to me proves premeditation because there's no need for these sneaky maneuvers. She got permission from her mom to leave, so there's no need to sneak out and, go over to the neighbors. This is unnecessary. And then not only did you do all that, but then you turned around and you lied, not only to her mom, but then to the cops. Bro, go to jail. By the 17th, police had a warrant to search Jalen's house and car, and they found a whole heap of stuff. Cops found a broken yellow iPhone, a shattered glass table, a brand new vacuum, and a note talking about self-harm on the kitchen table. On January 19th, Jalen turned himself into the cops with his lawyer, admitting that he'd been lying to them. He also decided to tell them his version of the truth. So this is the way that Jalen put it. He claims that he and Zion were hanging out that night, smoking weed and chilling. He says he left the room for a few minutes. She said she was tired and getting a little sleepy, and by the time he returned, Zion was unconscious. He claimed that her head was back and he couldn't wake her up. So at this point, he claims that he thought she was dead. He panicked. He put her body in his trunk and then disposed of her body in a dumpster. Now, mind you, he's doing all this and his 2 kids are upstairs asleep. Not only did you just kill their big cousin downstairs, but you also left them home alone in the middle of the freaking night in Detroit so you could go dump their cousin that you just murdered into a dumpster. Girl, take him to jail. Now, 3 days after his little fake confession, police arrested and charged him with lying to a police officer in a violent crime investigation and lying to a peace officer. 2 days after that, he was arraigned, which if you don't know what that means, because I noticed I kind of use that word a lot, but I never explain what it is. It's basically when you're called into court and you have to enter your plea, either guilty or not guilty. There are other pleas, but you get what I'm saying. Either way, by the end of March 2022, him and his dumbass story were sentenced to 23 months to 4 years. Now, I'm glad they did this because it did give them time to build evidence for the murder charge, because at this point, police still had not found Zion's body. The only issue is it wasn't until the end of May when they began a search for her in the local landfills. And I'm sorry, but 4 months? 4? Y'all couldn't look no faster? Damn, did you want to find her or not? Anyway, police searched for months until October 12th, and the landfill search ended up ending without discovering or recovering Zion's body or any evidence for that fucking matter. And then to add insult to injury, Jalen was released after accepting a plea deal just 10 months after he was arrested. Now, this is where the info left off when I originally wanted to cover this case a couple of months ago. And I'm not gonna lie, I was mad as hell because why is there even a plea deal on the table for this dirty bitch? And then, of course, they didn't even consult Zion's mom. Y'all already took forever to investigate and then took forever to find her body, which you still didn't fucking do. And then you turn around and give him a plea, and didn't consult her mother? Detroit, what are we doing? But you know what? God is amazing, y'all. Because when I started looking into this case to finally cover it this week, I was pleasantly surprised at what I found. In June of 2023, Jalen was charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. However, his trial didn't actually start until May of this year, 2024. Period, right to a speedy trial? What the hell? Anyway, lots of info came out during the trial. More specifically, the info about Jalen's search history and his text messages. And babes, I'm just going to get it out of the way. It was discovered that Jalen had been sending sexually charged messages to Zion. He was also talking about drugs that he was experimenting with to her, and a lot of that was reflected in his Google searches. So he searched things like how long acid stays in your system, what happens if you drink peroxide, how to tell if you're being watched by police, how much Motrin can kill you, can taking a bath with a toaster kill you, what happens if you put a fork in an outlet, how to tell if there's a stakeout on your property, why haven't I been arrested if I'm under investigation, how does the FBI satellite find people, what happens if you report someone to the FBI. There's so many searches, y'all. Mind you, they had to read all of these out in court. I'm not done. Can the police track our call list if we delete the call history? How do the police get someone's call history? How do the cops pull up last known call info? Can the police listen to a previous phone call? Now, in my opinion, I feel like whoever the fuck he called that night, they investigate, start asking some questions, because he clearly talked to somebody about something that he does not want to get out. I think it's funny to note that he also reset his phone to factory settings 2 days after he put Zion's body in a dumpster, right? But all of these bizarre ass searches occurred after this point. He's an idiot. Like, it wouldn't have helped him, but still. There was also a text that Jalen ended up sending to his girlfriend a couple of hours after he claimed that Zion passed away. All it said was, "Nyla scratched my neck." That's it. No story, no explanation, no nothing. Police believe that this was a cover story that he made up to explain scratches that Zion may have left behind while they were struggling. Mind you, Nyla is a family pet. Other texts revealed how close Zion was to Jalen. Back in December 2020, they had a detailed conversation about Zion needing a plan B. But the next day, she texted him and said it came today, meaning her period. In March of 2021, Jalen told Zion he was about to be single and explained why in graphic language in detail. Now, to me, personally, this is not weird. It's not a weird exchange, because everybody has their favorite in their family or their favorite friend or whatever that they tell, all their business to. And to me, I don't think that's weird for her to be like, oh my God, I messed up with my boyfriend or whatever. I need a plan B, because he's older. Maybe she felt like he could go in the store and get it for her if she needed it. Now, what didn't make sense to me is that in May of 2021, Jalen sent a message saying that his family asked if the two of them were having a sexual relationship. Now, in the text, both of them reacted negatively to that, cursing about the impossibilities and all this other kind of stuff. But as I was sitting here typing up this script, it dawned on me. This bastard was testing the waters with that text. Now, I don't know if y'all have ever been around someone who is not very good at manipulation, but this is a tactic that they'll use a lot of the time. It's kind of like just a little dangling the carrot in front of the rabbit just to see if it goes for it. So, for instance, when he brought this up to her, had she been like, oh my God, that's so weird. But it wouldn't have been crazy because we're not related. Now, had she said that, I promise you, things probably would have turned out differently. But because this fucking freak bitch in his mind could not take the fact that she thought of him as literal fucking blood family and was not trying to be on no weird ass, no, step bro type bullshit. Now this little girl, her life is over. It just, fuck him, for real. I honest to God do not believe one person asked him that question. Not one. I really don't. I feel like he completely made that shit up to try to gauge her reaction, because in my opinion, if they felt that way, they're family. People get along, people talk, they converse. If that's how they felt, wouldn't it make sense to go to her mom, seeing as how Zion was underage at the time? So instead, you just go to the dude? It don't sound right. And then if that stuff was not bad enough, on day 6 of his trial, you know what came out? That he was looking up cousin porn, y'all. Yeah, he's a freaky ass, you already know, 69 God. Eric Fronte, a Detroit police cybercrimes detective, testified that he found multiple porn links on Jalen's phone. Many of them included the word cousin. The URLs all included the K equals in them, which meant that the user typed in the keyword specifically, and it was not content that Jalen found on the homepage. Wow, y'all. Just wow. Jalen's trial lasted 9 days, and without a body, you would think this would be a hard case to try. However, prosecutors were able to use Jalen's big-ass mouth, his digital footprint, and his ever-changing story to convict him of 1 count of second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. He'll be sentenced June 3rd and faces life in prison. Now, in my opinion, they should have gave him first degree because, like I said, all that sneaky shit he was doing, parking in this place and that, and lying and deleting the fucking footage off his Ring camera, all of that to me, girl, it's giving first degree. But period, I guess. This case is actually so fucking heartbreaking to me because all of the things that she didn't get the chance to do, prom, graduation, getting her first car, those are all things I literally just witnessed my niece do, and I'm so proud of her. I love her so much. I'm gonna go watch her graduate in like literally a day, and those are moments that, you know, as I'm doing the case, I'm realizing, you know, this is stuff her mom's never gonna get to see. It's stuff her siblings, 5 of them, are never gonna get to see. They're never gonna get to witness and emulate even and be proud of. And I hate that so much for her family. It's so heartbreaking. My heart and my prayers absolutely go out to her family. And all I have to say is, you never know. You never know. You never know. You just, oh my God, people are so unpredictable, and you really never know when there's a snake in your grass. So keep a watchful eye and do not be afraid to cut it. Straight up. Anyways, y'all, I'm out of here. Thank y'all for listening, and I hope you're leaving having learned some lessons, babe. And if not, go back and listen again. I'll see y'all next time. And hey, do not forget to lock that door behind me. You never know what could come crawling in.